The awakening storm. The stars glittered like distant beacons against the endless void as the exploration vessel Aurora drifted toward the outer reaches of the Orion Arm. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling emerald nebula displayed on the main view screen. After 15 years of interstellar exploration, humanity had finally developed reliable faster-than-light travel, allowing them to venture deeper into the galaxy than ever before. "Communications ready, Captain," said Lieutenant James Harrison, adjusting his headset, "broadcasting our greeting on all frequencies as instructed." Chen nodded, her expression serious yet hopeful. Earth's diplomatic corps had spent years crafting the perfect message of peace and friendship. Humanity was still finding its footing among the stars, but intelligence gathered from long-range probes suggested the Claveri were an advanced civilization spanning hundreds of systems across this sector. "Any response, Lieutenant?" Chen asked, straightening the collar of her midnight blue uniform. "Nothing yet, Captain." "Wait." Harrison's expression shifted suddenly. "I'm detecting energy spikes from multiple vectors. They're powering weapons." Before Chen could respond, the bridge erupted with alarms. 3 Claveri warships emerged from behind the nebula's swirling gases, their gunmetal hulls bristling with weapon ports. "Raise shields," Chen ordered, though she knew the Aurora was an exploration vessel, not built for combat. The first blast hit them hard, sending crew members sprawling across the deck. The lights flickered as the ship's systems struggled to compensate. "They didn't even respond to our message," Harrison said in disbelief, helping a fallen engineer back to her station. Chen gripped her command chair. "Open emergency channel to Earth. Tell them we've made contact with the Claveri and been attacked without provocation." Before Harrison could comply, a face appeared on their view screen. The alien had pale gray skin with luminescent blue markings from forehead to jaw. Its eyes were deep crimson and seemed to look through Chen rather than at her. "Primitive species," the Claveri commander said in perfect English, their universal translators working flawlessly. "Your existence has been noted by Emperor Vortek. Your exploration ends here." Chen stepped forward. "We came in peace." "We meant no. Peace is irrelevant," the alien interrupted. "The strong command. The weak obey or vanish. You will witness our power. Then your leaders will understand their place." The transmission cut abruptly. The Aurora rocked with another hit. "They're not trying to destroy us," observed the tactical officer. "They're hurting us." Chen realized with growing horror what was happening. "They're pushing us back toward Nova Haven." Nova Haven was Earth's newest colony, home to 50,000 civilians. The Aurora's damaged engines couldn't outrun the Claveri ships as they were forced back toward the settlement. "Get me emergency communications with the colony," Chen ordered. "Tell them to evacuate immediately." But it was already too late. As the Aurora was pushed into orbit above the planet, the Claveri ships unleashed a barrage of energy weapons toward the surface. The colony's minimal defensive shields collapsed within seconds. From space, they watched helplessly as flashes of light engulfed the settlement. In minutes, Nova Haven was reduced to smoldering ruins. "Why?" Harrison whispered, tears streaming down his face. They were civilians. The Claveri commander's face reappeared. "A demonstration. Return to your home world with this message. The Claveri Empire has categorized your species as insignificant. You may continue to exist on your world, but space belongs to the worthy. Trespass again, and your home world will suffer the same fate." 2 Claveri vessels disappeared into faster-than-light travel, while the third remained behind. It fired precisely at the Aurora, targeting life support and engines, but leaving the bridge intact. As the ship began to break apart, Chen ordered the crew to the escape pods. "Lieutenant Harrison, take Pod 3. Someone must survive to warn Earth." Harrison protested, but Chen pushed him into the pod and launched it manually just before the bridge exploded. As his pod tumbled through space, he watched the Aurora disintegrate. On his imperial throne, Emperor Vortek dismissed the report of the human encounter with a wave of his six-fingered hand. "Another primitive species has learned its place," he said, already focusing on more important matters. "They will not trouble us again." He could not have been more wrong. The United Nations emergency session fell silent as Lieutenant James Harrison finished his testimony. The lone survivor of the Aurora disaster had spent 2 weeks in a cramped escape pod before being rescued by a mining vessel. His recorded footage of Nova Haven's destruction left world leaders stunned. 50,000 souls, whispered the UN Secretary General. Gone without warning or reason. Admiral Elena Rodriguez, a weathered woman with steel-gray hair and piercing green eyes, stood from her seat in the military gallery. "The Claveri believe us weak and primitive. They expect us to cower on our world in fear." "And what would you suggest, Admiral?" asked India's representative. "Their technology clearly surpasses ours. We've only just reached the stars." Rodriguez's expression remained calm, but her eyes burned with cold determination. "I suggest we let them believe they're right." The next day, Earth issued a formal apology to the Galactic Empire for trespassing in their space and publicly announced the suspension of all deep space exploration. Privately, the Security Council approved Rodriguez's audacious plan, codenamed Thunderbolt. 6 months later, Dr. Marcus Wong stood in a secret underground facility beneath the Australian outback, watching as engineers assembled prototype components. "Will it work?" asked Dr. Sarah Patel, his research partner, nervously adjusting her glasses. "In theory," Marcus replied, studying the complex energy patterns on his tablet. "The Claveri shield technology operates on principles we've never seen before, but their attack gave us enough data to reverse engineer the basics." Sarah nodded toward the massive chamber beyond the observation window and the drive system. "Even better, their weapons revealed weaknesses in conventional FTL tech. We're not just catching up, we're leapfrogging their capabilities." Across the globe, similar facilities sprung up in deserts, mountain ranges, and beneath oceans. The public remained unaware, told only that Earth was focusing on internal development after the unfortunate misunderstanding with the Claveri. Every major nation contributed resources and personnel to the silent buildup. Former enemies became allies, united by the stark realization that humanity's survival was at stake. 3 years after the Nova Haven massacre, spy agent Sophia Dias slipped aboard a trading vessel from one of the non-aligned alien species that occasionally visited Earth. Disguised as cargo, she infiltrated Claveri space, establishing the first of many hidden observation posts on the Empire's fringes. Her encrypted reports painted a troubling picture. The Claveri weren't just conquerors. They were systematic oppressors who had subjugated dozens of species across their vast territory. "They're expanding again," she reported. 3 more systems annexed last month. The conquered races are treated as little more than slaves. In the vacuum of Europa's orbit, hidden from both Earth and alien observation, the first shipyards took shape. Automated construction drones assembled massive vessels designed not for exploration but for war. Admiral Rodriguez inspected the flagship of the growing fleet, temporarily designated Nemesis. Its sleek black hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it. "How many can we build?" she asked the project director. "With current resources, 100 capital ships and 300 support vessels within 8 years. If we accelerate production and bring the lunar mining operations online sooner, perhaps more." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "And the weapon systems?" Dr. Wong's team has exceeded expectations. The prototype cannons generate 10 times the energy of anything the Claveri showed us, with better targeting and range. In a secure facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, hundreds of pilots trained in advanced simulators designed from Sophia Dias's intelligence. They learned to think like Claveri commanders, to anticipate their tactics and exploit their weaknesses. Meanwhile, on the public stage, Earth continued to play the role of the humbled primitive species. Their few permitted interstellar vessels were outdated, their communications respectful to the point of subservience. Emperor Vortek, receiving the annual report on Earth, barely glanced at it before tossing it aside. The humans had learned their lesson well. They posed no threat and warranted no further attention. Behind their mask of submission, humanity prepared. They would have only one chance to strike. And when they did, the galaxy would never be the same. 10 years had passed since the destruction of Nova Haven. On the 10th anniversary, Earth observed a solemn day of remembrance, while deep within the asteroid belt, Admiral Rodriguez addressed the officers of humanity's secret fleet. "Today we remember our dead," she said, her voice carrying through the command deck of the flagship, now named Retribution. "Tomorrow, we ensure their sacrifice was not in vain." Fleet Commander Eli Reeves stood at attention among the gathered officers. At 45, he had spent the last decade preparing for this moment. The former commercial pilot had been handpicked by Rodriguez to lead the first assault wave. Operation Judgment Day begins at 600, Rodriguez continued. The Claveri believe us broken. They will learn how wrong they are. Later, in the engine room, Chief Engineer Jason Torres ran final diagnostics on his creation. The brilliant physicist had revolutionized propulsion technology, but his greatest achievement was the device humming softly before him. "Will it work across their entire network?" Reeves asked, entering the chamber. Torres nodded. "Their communication systems are standardized across their empire, a weakness we can exploit. When activated, this will create cascading failures throughout their relay stations. They'll be blind and mute for approximately 8 hours. 8 hours could be enough," Reeves said. "It has to be." Retribution's dawn. At exactly 600 Earth time, 400 human warships emerged from their hidden bases. Using coordinates provided by Sofia Diaz's spy network, they positioned themselves at strategic points along the edge of Claveri space. No human vessel had ventured this far in a decade. On the Retribution's bridge, Commander Reeves gave the order. "Activate Torres silence." Throughout Claveri space, communication hubs suddenly failed. Emergency systems attempted to compensate, only to crash in turn as the carefully crafted virus spread from node to node. "Silence confirmed," reported Communications Officer Mira Singh. "All Claveri channels have gone dark." Reeves nodded grimly. "Launch strike teams. Phase 1 is active." Across the border of Claveri territory, smaller stealth vessels detached from the main fleet. Captain Zoe Williams led the first wave, her team targeting a monitoring station at the Empire's outer boundary. "Shields at maximum," she ordered as they approached. "Weapons hot." The Claveri station, suddenly without contact with the Imperial network, barely had time to raise alarms before Williams's vessel appeared directly above it. "They've spotted us," her tactical officer reported. "Too late," Williams replied calmly. "Fire." Advanced energy weapons, the product of 10 years of research, sliced through the station's defenses like paper. Within minutes, the facility was reduced to drifting debris. Similar scenes played out across 50 boundary points. Human vessels struck with surgical precision, eliminating Claveri outposts before they could alert others to the danger. On the Imperial throne world of Nexus Prime, confusion reigned. Emperor Vortek demanded explanations as reports of communication failures flooded in from all sectors. "It must be a system malfunction," insisted his chief technician, "perhaps solar flare activity." The Emperor was unconvinced. "Deploy scout vessels to all silent sectors. I want answers, not excuses." But the scout vessels never returned. By the time the Claveri leadership realized they were under attack, humanity's fleet had already penetrated 3 layers of their defensive perimeter. Commander Reeves watched the tactical display as green indicators confirmed successful strikes across the board. Phase 1 was complete with minimal losses. "The Claveri are scrambling forces from their interior worlds," reported his tactical officer. "They still don't know who's attacking or from where." Reeves allowed himself a small smile. "Commence Phase 2. Target their shipyards and military installations." The human fleet moved deeper into enemy territory. their advanced stealth technology keeping them hidden until the moment they struck. Decades of Claveri military infrastructure began to crumble under the assault. On a captured Claveri communications array, Lieutenant Alex Navarro discovered something alarming. "Commander, I found plans for what appears to be a superweapon. They're building it in the Thetis system." Reeves studied the data and immediately contacted Admiral Rodriguez. "Ma'am, we may have a complication." Rodriguez's response was immediate. "Redirect Strike Group 7 to Thetis. Whatever they're building, destroy it before they can use it." As day turned to night across Earth, its citizens remained unaware that humanity had just launched the largest military offensive in its history. By dawn, the galaxy would never be the same. Emperor Vortex's pale gray skin had darkened to a sickly charcoal as reports flooded the Imperial war room. The massive holographic display before him showed red alerts blinking across 1/3 of his empire. "Impossible," he whispered, watching another system go dark. "Who dares attack us? The Varadians lack the technology, and the Ceruleans signed peace treaties centuries ago." High Commander Draz Korvik, the Emperor's most trusted military advisor, studied the fragmented data with growing alarm. "My Emperor, the pattern suggests a coordinated assault by an unknown force. They've destroyed 60 outposts, 25 shipyards, and 12 military bases in less than 14 hours. But who?" Vortex slammed his fist on the console. "Who possesses such power without our knowledge?" The answer came as communications briefly restored in Sector 9. A grainy transmission showed the destruction of the Claveri battle cruiser Dominance. For a brief moment, the attacking vessel was visible, sleek, black, and bearing an unmistakable symbol. "Magnify that image," ordered Korvik. The symbol expanded on screen. A stylized Earth surrounded by stars. "Humans," Vortex's voice rose in disbelief. "The primitives we taught a lesson a decade ago." "It appears they learned a different lesson than intended," Korvik said grimly. In the command center of Earth's Second Fleet, military strategist Dr. Olivia Chen monitored the Claveri response. The brilliant former chess champion had designed their attack pattern specifically to confuse Imperial forces. "They're finally figuring it out," she noted as Claveri ships began changing formation. "They're recalling scattered forces to protect their core worlds." Admiral Rodriguez's face appeared on the main screen. "Assessment, Dr. Chen." "Exactly as predicted, ma'am. They're creating a defensive perimeter around their key systems, leaving the outer territories exposed. They still think conventionally. Protect the center at all costs." Rodriguez nodded. "Then we continue as planned. Hit what they don't protect while avoiding direct engagement with their concentrated forces." Meanwhile, Captain Ray Martinez led a special operations team through the abandoned corridors of the Claveri research facility in the Thetis system. The strike force had arrived expecting heavy resistance, but found the station eerily deserted save for a skeleton crew who surrendered immediately. "They evacuated in a hurry," noted Martinez, examining the scattered equipment. "Whatever they were building, they couldn't take it with them." In the central chamber, they found it, a massive device humming with energy, easily the size of a small ship. Martinez approached cautiously, scanning the technology with specialized equipment. "Ma'am," he contacted Rodriguez, "we've located the superweapon. It appears to be a gravitational manipulation device capable of collapsing stars. If they had completed this, every human world would be vulnerable." "Can you disable it?" Rodriguez asked. "Better," Martins replied. "We can take it. Dr. Patel is here and says the technology is transportable." Across Claveri space, Imperial commanders began to understand the true nature of their enemy. These were not the primitive humans they had dismissed a decade earlier. These humans fought with advanced technology and perfect coordination, striking from multiple vectors, then disappearing before counterattacks could form. On the Claveri homeworld, Emperor Vortek called an emergency meeting of the Imperial Council. "How did they hide this?" demanded the Minister of Intelligence. We've had observers near Earth for years. They showed no signs of military buildup. They must have constructed their fleet in secret, beyond our observation range, Korvik suggested. It doesn't matter how they did it, Vortek interrupted. What matters is stopping them now. Recall all forces, every ship, every soldier. We will crush these upstart humans in one decisive battle. As the Claveri Navy consolidated, Admiral Rodriguez addressed the United Galactic Assembly, a loose coalition of independent species that existed on the fringes of Claveri influence. The Claveri Empire has committed atrocities against countless species, including unprovoked genocide against our colony, she stated firmly. Humanity seeks justice, not conquest. We ask all non-Claveri vessels to remain clear of designated conflict zones. Several representatives exchanged glances. One brave delegate from the Viridian Republic finally spoke. If the Claveri fall, what then? Do you humans intend to become the new empire? Rodriguez's expression remained resolute. We have no such ambition. When this is finished, all species will determine their own fate. As the galactic community watched in stunned silence, humanity's fleets continued their inexorable advance toward the heart of the Claveri Empire. The skies above Nexus Prime blazed with energy discharges as humanity's united fleet emerged from hyperspace. 600 warships arranged in perfect battle formation faced the hastily assembled Claveri Defense Force. Commander Reeves stood on the Retribution's bridge, surveying the enemy fleet. The Claveri had gathered over 800 vessels to protect their throne world, but their formation showed signs of panic and rushed deployment. They outnumber us, observed his first officer. Numbers aren't everything, Reeves replied calmly. Begin the approach sequence. All ships maintain formation echo. The human fleet moved forward with disciplined precision, their advanced shields absorbing the first volley of Claveri weapons fire without faltering. On the planet below, Major Layla Saleh prepared her ground forces. 30,000 elite soldiers waited in stealth dropships, their mission critical to the battle's success. Remember your training, she told her troops through the comm system. Our objective is the planetary defense grid. Disable it, and our fleet can end this quickly. As the space battle intensified above, Sayla's dropships slipped through gaps in the Claveri detection network. Using data from spy Sophia Dias, they targeted landing zones near the main defense control centers. The first dropship touched down silently in a forested area 3 kilometers from their target. Sayla led her team out, their advanced armor blending with the surroundings. Movement ahead, whispered her scout. Claveri patrol, 12 soldiers. Sayla signaled her team to hold position. Let them pass. We avoid engagements unless necessary. Meanwhile, in orbit, the battle had reached its peak. The human fleet executed complex maneuvers that confused Claveri targeting systems, allowing them to inflict maximum damage while minimizing their own losses. Sir, the Emperor is broadcasting, reported Communications Officer Singh. On screen. Emperor Vortek appeared, his usual arrogance replaced by barely controlled rage. Humans, this meaningless attack will be your species' last mistake. Surrender now, and we may allow your homeworld to survive. Reeves exchanged glances with Admiral Rodriguez, whose image appeared on a secondary screen. Rodriguez nodded slightly. Emperor Vortek, Reeves responded, you offered no terms when you destroyed Nova Haven. You offered no warning, no chance for surrender. However, unlike you, we are not genocidal. Order your forces to stand down, and we will accept your unconditional surrender. Vortek's face contorted with fury. Impudent creatures. Activate the stellar hammer. Show these humans our true power. Alarm spread through the human fleet as sensors detected a massive energy buildup from a hidden installation on Nexus Prime's moon. The superweapon. A blinding beam of energy erupted from the lunar surface, aimed directly at the human fleet. But instead of striking the vessels, the beam suddenly curved, twisting back toward Claveri ships. On a specialized research vessel at the fleet's rear, Dr. Marcus Wong monitored his equipment with satisfaction. The gravity manipulation device captured from the Thetis station had been modified to redirect the Claveri weapon's energy. "Redirection successful," he reported. "Their own weapon is targeting their defense fleet." The redirected beam tore through 50 Claveri warships before the weapon operators realized what was happening and shut it down. Panic spread through the Imperial forces as they witnessed their superweapon turned against them. On the planet's surface, Major Salah's team reached the main defense control center. The Claveri guards, distracted by reports from orbit, offered minimal resistance. "Plant the charges," Salah ordered as her team secured the facility. "Set timers for synchronized detonation with the other teams." Across Nexus Prime, similar infiltration teams reached their targets. At Salah's signal, they simultaneously disabled the planet's defensive shield generators and weapon systems. "Ground team to fleet," Salah transmitted. "Defenses neutralized. The planet is exposed." In orbit, Reeves received the confirmation and opened a channel to the Imperial Palace. "Emperor Vortek, your defenses are down. Your fleet is in disarray, and your superweapon has failed. These are our final terms. Unconditional surrender, or we will destroy your military capability entirely." On the palace balcony, Vortek watched in disbelief as human warships descended through the atmosphere, positioning themselves above key military installations. How had these primitives, these insignificant creatures he had dismissed a decade ago, brought his mighty empire to its knees? "I will not surrender to lesser beings," he hissed to his advisors. "Prepare the royal escape shuttle. The Empire may have lost this battle, but I will return with greater forces." But as Imperial officials rushed to comply, they found all escape routes blocked by human forces. The empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was finally cornered, its fate hanging in the balance. 3 days after the Battle of Nexus Prime, representatives from 27 formerly subjugated species gathered alongside human delegates to sign the Galactic Coalition Charter. Admiral Rodriguez watched as each species added their mark to the historic document. Among them stood beings who had been enslaved for generations, their cultures nearly forgotten, now free to determine their own futures. The humans had not only defeated the Claveri, but had liberated countless worlds in the process. Emperor Vortek and his high command now stood trial before an interstellar tribunal, their crimes against sentient beings meticulously documented for all the galaxy to witness. As Rodriguez returned to her flagship, Commander Reeves met her on the landing bay. "The last Claveri holdouts surrendered this morning," he reported. "The war is officially over." Rodriguez nodded, gazing out at the stars now filled with possibilities rather than threats. "This isn't an ending, Commander. It's a beginning. Humanity has proved itself worthy of the stars not through conquest, but through justice." Across the liberated galaxy, the story spread, how a seemingly primitive species had risen from a single world to topple an ancient empire, not for dominion, but for freedom. The galaxy would never forget the day when humanity's fleet arrived, bringing not destruction for its own sake, but liberation for all.